Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Sorry I haven't posted any tutorials in about a week. I was really busy working on some cakes and some cookies for some friends. So I had originally planned on filming some of that. However, they were both very time consuming. I had to have my sister come help me. So between baking two-tiered cakes and all those cookies and then decorating, cookies take a little while to decorate, I would have run out of space on my camera and I would have just blown through the battery multiple times. It probably took us to do all of it over the course of a couple days, about 15 hours. So was not really up to filming also because that just would have made it take a little bit longer. But I do apologize for not posting any videos lately. I will show you pictures of those cakes. But today I thought that we would go ahead and look at just practicing some different border techniques for buttercream. When you're icing a cake, there's a couple different things you could do along the border of the cake. You could do it at the bottom, you could also do it at the top. I typically always do some kind of border along the bottom. I still, like 8.5, almost 9 years later, have a hard time getting it completely smooth. You see those pictures of professional cakes and they're like flat to the bottom. Boggles my mind that they can do that. I still struggle with that. It's something I'm still trying to conquer, but borders do help hide all of that. So we're gonna go over a couple different ways that you can put different borders on the cake. They also make it look very finished and very professional. I found this when I was cleaning out my cake supplies. It's a plastic container with this clear flap. It comes with a whole bunch of different techniques that you can try. You just slip in behind the plastic, try it, wipes right off. So this was great. This was how I learned practicing on here. You can even practice just on wax paper, on paper towels, anything really that you can think of that you want to practice on. Before I go ahead and pipe something on a cake, I do a lot of times just grab paper towels that are near me from cleaning tips and spatulas and just pipe things on just to make sure that the icing is the correct consistency, that I like the tip that I'm using if I'm doing a shell border, because different tips will look a little different. So I figured that we would go ahead and take a look at some different techniques that are very easy that you could do to put a border on your buttercream cakes. So we're gonna start with this bead border since we're covering borders today. We are going to use the Wilton Tip 5. It's just a small circle. And they even show you how to angle it. So you don't want to be straight up and down. You want to be more on a side. So if you just put it down, they have it where you can practice not in a line first. So we're just going to put it down on an angle, squeeze, pull away. Now, if you could see, I didn't hold this one correctly. I held it too much at an angle where I was almost horizontal. You want to be more, not at a 90, but maybe more at a 45. So we're just going to squeeze and then pull away. Squeeze and pull away. Now this icing is just left over from a cake I've already done. So this is actually a little stiff. I think I would go with icing a little bit softer. But it's just a good way to get you to practice. Now you could do the same thing, but instead of angling it, you could use the 5 and just go ahead and straight up and down. Just make some balls for your border. You could do that small, we can do it larger. This is the Wilton 12. Now as I'm letting out at the end, I'm kind of swirling it. Otherwise you end up with peaks. See, this one has a really big peak. But you can always kind of go back and fix it a little bit. So you could do big, you could do little. You can do it where you alternate them. If you want to do 2 big ones. Throw a little one in at the end. Anything you want. It's really very easy. So this is a very simple border that you could do at the bottom or at the top of your cake. It just kind of makes any edges that look a little unfinished look a little bit neater. So I'm going to go ahead and just wipe this off. We're going to try a different tip to do a different type of border. Okay, now we're looking at one where they have shell borders, rosettes, and reverse shell. The rosette we've gone over, but we'll do it again. They're recommending using tip 16, which is what I have on my bag of dark green. We're just going to go ahead and do the rosettes. You could do this around the edge, along the bottom to make your border if you wanted. You saw that we could do it with as decoration, use a bigger tip, put it on a cake. So it tells you to just hold it straight up and down and just to go around in a circle, releasing a little bit at the end. We could even do some rosettes. And put some dots. And do some more rosettes. So here you can see that you can do your border with multiple different tips and give it some variation. Okay, so you're gonna hold it again at an angle. You're gonna squeeze, go up and come down. Squeeze, kind of push back up and over and come down. And that gives you your shell border. Now when I took the class, they did have you, you squeeze like we were doing, go up, come down, and stop. Sometimes when you're going really fast, you could do it all just in one motion. Nice quick little border, gives your cake a more professional feel. Now with this same tip, now again they recommended using 21, I am using 18. Now we're going to go ahead and try the reverse shell. We're going to use the same tip. Again, they say to use a 21. I'm using an 18. You hold it at a slight angle to your cake. You're going to squeeze and kind of come around and then go and do it the other way. So it just kind of gives it a little bit of a different feel than the regular shell border. Now let's try it with a slightly different tip. We're going to go ahead and make the shell border again. We're going to do it with Wilton Tip 32, and it should come out basically the same, but just slightly different pattern. This is obviously a bigger tip, as my shells are a little bit bigger. And then we can go ahead and try our reverse shell. You can even use these tips if you wanted and do just flowers. Pull along the bottom, and you can go back. You could do a different type of flower at the ends, a little star, maybe in the middle. So you can make them as complicated or as simple as you want. Did a star with your 18. That's this shell border here. Now this I'm just holding up and down. No angle, just squeezing and letting go. So I was just looking at one of the sheets from the class. It's showing the star with the star border. You can also do an entire cake this way. I could show you a picture of a Buzz Lightyear one that my sister did using this. You can make lines, but they even have down here where you can make a tight zigzag. So if we try that, you could even do that as a border. So that's with tip 16, which we were using. So I'm gonna grab that one. Okay, so I just took my tip 16 and I moved it from my dark green to my light green, just because the dark green was filled really high, which made piping really difficult. It's also kind of stiff. Hold it at an angle and just zigzag. So you can make some zigzag borders. So I also had the sheet for course 3. It's showing your ruffle border, well, it's showing your shell border with a ruffle on top. And for this ruffle border portion, it looks like they're using tip 127. I actually don't have that, so I'm just grabbing another tip and I'm gonna see if it works. So it looks like you're holding it at an angle. Again, and we're just gonna try to do some kind of a ruffle on top. Not sure what I think of it. It does not look as nice as theirs. Again, I didn't use the correct tip. I don't have the 127. I'll have to get that. I used 104. It's the tip that you would use on a rose if you were doing that to place on top of a cake. So I don't really recommend doing that with this tip because it doesn't really work. It doesn't have a top smooth edge like it does in their picture. But it was worth a shot. Now if you had a huge cake, you could always use your 2D or your 1M. These are the tips that we use for the rosettes, or the little flowers where you push and then turn. Yes, technically, these look very pretty along the top of a cake, like if this was the outside of the cake on top, and you would just put the rosettes all along. But I guess if you do have a huge cake, you could always go ahead and make some massive shells to go along the edge of the cake. They do look just as nice for the shell border, so you could use your 2D or your 1M if you are doing maybe tiered cakes and you're gonna have the shell border get a little smaller the higher up the tiers it goes. This would be good for your biggest cake on the bottom tier. Okay, so those were just a couple of different techniques that you could do to put a border along the edge of your cake. They're very simple. They're not hard to do. They make the cake look finished, I think a little bit more professional. I would just say to just play around with different tips and see what you come up with. There are things that I've done that I didn't learn in the class, or I didn't see anybody else that did it, and I just tried it to see what works and what doesn't. As you saw, I tried to do the ruffle with a different tip than what they said to do, and I don't think it worked. But now I know, and I think I'm gonna go buy that tip to try the ruffle. I think that'd be really cute on a cake. I did a touchdowns or tutus once. That would have been really cute along the bottom. But those again are just a couple techniques done with just a couple tips, just depending on how you move the tip around, the angle that you hold it. You could do a whole bunch of different variations on similar borders, but make them look pretty different. So again, any questions or comments, leave them below. I'd be happy to get back to you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I hope you have a great day.